Or introducing. Oh, my bad. The recording just started. We're gonna turn over to Dr. Ha for an introduction of this event.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes,
Yes.
okay. I'm gonna close caption for people too. Welcome everyone to APIDAHM, which is APIDA Heritage Month. My name is Dr. Nina Ha, and I am the director of the APIDA Plus Center. And just to let you know, you all are closing out our APIDA Heritage Month events. So for this month. So I am very excited to showcase this event, which has been going on since I started working at Virginia Tech. Before I actually begin, I want to share the land and labor acknowledgement. Virginia Tech acknowledges that we live and work on the Tutelo and Monacan people's homeland, and we recognize their continued relationships with their lands and waterways. We further acknowledge that the Morrill Land Grant College Act of 1862 enabled the Commonwealth of Virginia to finance and found Virginia Tech through the forced removal of Native nations from their lands in California and other areas in the West. Virginia Tech acknowledges that its Blacksburg campus sits partly on land that was previously the site of the Smithfield and Solitude plantations owned by members of the Preston family. Between the 1770s and the 1860s, the Prestons and other local white families that owned parcels of what became Virginia Tech also owned hundreds of enslaved people. Enslaved Black people generated resources that financed Virginia Tech's predecessor institution, the Preston and Nolan Institute, and they also worked on the construction of its building. And so without further ado, I am handing it off to the APID Alumni Society.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elaine. Also, you can call me EJ. I really prefer that. I love it so much. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy week to join us for this career panel. I hope you all are looking forward to learning about each of our panelists as much as we are. Just a quick reminder, this event is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. In case you haven't been to our events before, Charlene, Jackie, Melanie, and myself are board members of the Asian Pacific Islander Desi Alumni Society at Virginia Tech. This org has been around for 4 years now. The career panel is a part of our annual programming. Other events we host throughout the year are the Homecoming Alumni Tailgate, Alumni Happy Hours, the Achievement Ceremony. We also often collaborate with the Asian American Student Union, Asian Cultural Engagement Center, and other alumni groups. If you have any questions about this Alumni Society, please stick around until the end and we'll share with you all how to stay connected. So it looks like we're all settled and ready to begin. Charlene, can you introduce our panelists, please?
Of course, of course. Okay, so tonight we have 3 panelists, quite an accomplished group of Hokies, I would like to say. So first we have Emily Fung. She graduated in 2015 with a degree in biological sciences, and she minored in animal sciences. After graduating from Virginia Tech, Emily went on to pursue her PhD in immunology and microbiology at the George Washington University in collaboration with the National Institutes of Health. Currently, Emily is a senior scientist at AstraZeneca, where she works on creating vaccines and therapeutics to combat infectious diseases. Outside of work, Emily loves to watch musicals, travel to new places, and play video games with her friends. Next, we have Jessie Pasquale. Jessie graduated in 2017 with a degree in international studies and communications. Jessie now serves as a senior graphic designer at Guidehouse, a consulting firm in the DC area. Jessie is dedicated to crafting designs beyond the workday, often customizing jerseys and logos for local organizations, along with drawing custom illustrations. When she's not immersed in design projects, you can find her on the football field supporting and competing with her women's and co-ed Black football teams at the local national level. She recently won the t-shirt contest for the 2014 Credit Union Cherry Blossom Race, in which 20,000 runners in both the 10-mile and the 5K races wore her design. And next we have Brian Chan. He graduated in 2020 with a civil engineering degree and minored in real estate. He works as a business owner of Tito in Fairfax, and at Tito, he is in charge of daily operational management, supply chain management, hiring and onboarding, and also creating new items for seasonal menus. His hobbies include eating, drinking boba, and the claw machines at round one. Now that I've introduced our wonderful panelists, I would like to start our discussion. So this is a discussion, so panelists can chime in whenever you please. I guess I can start off by calling out each and every single one of you for this first question, because we just want to know more about your history and anything that you want to add about your past and how you ended up to where you are now. So the first question is, I guess I'll go to Emily first. Where did you grow up? How did you end up at Virginia Tech? And if I didn't cover anything in your introduction, what else would you like to add about your background?
Hi, I'm Emily. I was born and raised in Northern Virginia. I still live here in Northern Virginia, so haven't moved very far. So I was raised in a very family-oriented household. So how I ended up in Virginia Tech was I wanted to find a college that was still close by, but not too close. But it would be easier if I had somewhere in the state that would be easier to visit over the holidays. And it just so happens that Virginia Tech is also very strong in the sciences, which was one of my major requirements when looking for a college.
Nice. Would you like to go next, Jessica?
Sure. My name is Jessica Pasquale. I also grew up and born and raised in Northern Virginia, specifically Falls Church, Virginia. And I was surrounded by a lot of Filipinos, a lot of Vietnamese people in this area. So loved the community here. And so I decided to stay. I'm currently living in Fairfax, Virginia, right next to Tito, Ryan. So just funny how that ended up happening. And then I chose Virginia Tech for the same reason Emily did. It was far enough for that I could establish my own personality and just life away from Northern Virginia, but also be able to come home as the first gen of my family to attend and graduate college. It was really important for me to really have my own footing and really set the standard for the family and everyone else. So that's why I chose Virginia Tech.
Nice. And then Brian, would you like to talk a little bit about yourself?
Oh, yeah. So I also grew up in Nova, born and raised here. I ended up going to Virginia Tech just because I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do coming out of high school, but Virginia Tech kind of had both the majors that I was looking at. I was kind of in between business and engineering, so it just made the most sense for me. Right now I'm obviously still living in Nova with our store in Fairfax. And yeah, I mean, I tried the full-time job for 2 years. I worked for a construction company. I tried it for 2 years. It was a lot of experience, but I just decided that I think the business owner might be something worth trying. So that's why I'm here now.
Very cool. I think it's kind of funny how the APIDAHM board and all of you panelists were all in Nova. Diverse geographically.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but there's like a big concentration of us, so it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I can move on to the next question now, I guess. So what was your experience like at Virginia Tech, and did you feel like it influenced your postgraduate self? Does anyone want to go first?
I can go first. So in Virginia Tech, I was really heavily involved in the Filipino American Student Association, or FASA. And so I was on the board for 3 years, ended up becoming president my senior year, and just being in charge of an organization, like 100+ people, and then organizing the events and all of that. It really translated into how I approach post-grad life, and whether it's working with a team in my company, or just organizing events in general. Just, I don't know, college really taught me to be more extroverted, be able to organize events, and just get to know people, be open to getting to know people.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else want to add to that question?
Yeah, similar to Jessica, I was also very involved with the Chinese American Society and also the Korean American Student Association. I was also part of the board, and I think on a personal level, being at Virginia Tech and being involved in the Asian American student orgs, it really gave me back a piece of me that I tried to repress over the years, and definitely got me to be more extroverted in college. I never really came out of my shell until freshman year, so I definitely think college was a really life-changing experience for me and created a lot of friendships that I still have today.
Yeah, similar to them, I was also in the Chinese American Society. I was on the board for that. I think Virginia Tech kind of gave me a lot of time for character development. Like Emily said, I guess it's just Nova's just really big. You kind of lose some of your, I guess like your, I don't want to say like Asian. I don't know. It's just you don't really get that experience of having that really close group of friends with like a really similar upbringing until well, at least I didn't until I was at Virginia Tech. And so I guess like meeting all these people, figuring myself out, like learning how to work on a team environment, like all of this stuff is just like great experiences that I've gotten from tech.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like Virginia Tech has a lot of resources to like meet a whole bunch of people. There's a whole bunch of clubs and organizations.
Yeah, shifting topics entirely. Uh, learning more about your jobs. What does your agenda look like day to day? And how do you combat like your day-to-day challenges? Any stressors, or I guess just life events? So me and Charlene are growing up, we're starting to understand that more. So we're just curious like what your day-to-day is like in terms of your job description and your personal life. Sorry if that question wasn't clear. Anyone can chime in to get started.
Okay, I can start. So at AstraZeneca, I am part of the vaccines and immune therapies group. So more specifically, my role in that group is to act as a point person to design and execute contracts regarding any externalized studies that our group has to place to generate data to move our vaccines and or therapeutics through FDA approval. So we have to generate all of the data, and I'm compiling everything, reviewing contracts, analyzing and presenting data to stakeholders, and that kind of makes up my day-to-day activities, including a ton of meetings. I guess we can't really get away from that. But I think being a part of that, it really helps me learn how to manage a lot of time management, and also project management is a big thing as well. In addition to navigating, working through different types of personalities and people that you encounter in that role. Since you're talking to a lot of people, you have to learn how to develop a specific management style depending on the personality of the person that you're managing. So it's a lot of kind of navigating through that, and it's really exciting. I like it a lot. Yeah.
I'll go next. So I have the flexibility to work from home. Recently I work from home because I tore my ACL and I've been recovering from it. But I love my job because I am able to create every day. I create different designs for handouts, presentations, any sort of marketing material for Guidehouse. And I'm currently assisting the team with rebranding and understanding what colors and what fonts and what designs they want to see in the upcoming rebrand for them. So like Emily said, there's a lot of meetings involved. Some are at 8:30 and some I really just don't want to join, but we have to do what we have to do each day and join those meetings and understand different personalities and be able to find a compromise. Especially in design, people see things differently. And so I always try to create multiple options of my own designs to show the teams, hey, here's your idea and here are different ways you can show it to the client. And so we work with a lot of, our clients are a lot of government contractors, so they like to see things in black and white. And so when they see designs that come from us, they're like, what is this? So, yeah, showing a lot of compromises there. And then in terms of personal life, I used to play flag football 2 to 3 times a week for FXA Sports. And that was always my outlet in sort of just being able to find to balance a burnout outside of that. So used to do that, but currently not doing that because I am recovering from my ACL tear.
Sounds awful, the ACL tear.
No,
Hope you
it's
feel
not
better.
anything. We're good. We're good.
I actually want to add on to you working remote. I guess since you recently started working remote with your ACL tear, how do you like separate your work and like when you're home kind of thing? I feel like it's harder to kind of keep work and life separate when you're working from home. And I just want to bring this up because I feel like a lot of college students or a lot of students, they spent the majority of their time in like high school or college during the COVID years remote. And so I feel like working remote is more popular. But I just wanted to add, I personally did not like working remote. I did find it easier to separate in person and at home, like work when I keep it in office or at home. So I just wanted to hear what you thought about working remote.
Yeah, so I've actually been working remote even before the ACL tear. So probably around 4 years now that I've been, 3 to 4 years now that I've been working remote. And I have learned that just creating a space that's separate from my bedroom helps to separate work from home. And I kind of just have to, I schedule my, I'm, I'm very appreciative of the flexibility that my job has given me to work from home, but I also plan my day very accordingly, like breakfast here. I plan it as if I'm in the office, if I'm commuting to the office. Like if I'm at my desk, I'm at my desk. And it's a very rigid schedule that I've had to sort of balance. But I also know that, 9 to 5 means it doesn't always mean 9 to 5. I might be working late, but I also draw that boundary at like 6 or 7. If I'm not needed, then don't this isn't encroaching on my personal time outside of work. So I've had to draw those boundaries clearly. But I understand it's very hard when you first start working from home and you're like, wow, I have all this time to do XYZ. But important meetings, I'll come into the office and then I've found that just managing my time very carefully with scheduling time on my actual Outlook calendar to show that I'm working on this, I'm focusing on this, really helps people know what I'm doing and keep us on the same page.
Very insightful. Brian, do you want to touch on what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, I guess my day-to-day would be less interesting. I'm mostly just like in the shop working. Honestly, I'm there a lot. Typically you'll see me in there like 80, 90 hours a week. But it's not as much, I guess, like thinking. It's more just, like the restocking, the organization. I do end up answering a lot of emails too, just connecting with suppliers, supply chains, and then also there's always like the next business venture that we're looking at. So that's always something that I'm working on too.
That sounds like a lot of thinking.
Yeah,
That
that's
is a
not
lot of
boring.
thinking.
That sounds cool.
Just casually running
Not
a
a
business.
More
normal.
passive thinking.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, Ryan. There's always people outside the shop.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen you there
all
yet
the
though.
all the George Mason kids.
I also kind of want to elaborate a little bit more on that question that we just asked, because it sounds like you all day to day work with a lot of people and have to like answer to a lot of emails and questions. Have you like had any challenges with that? Like, I guess customer service skills are required in every single job. Do you have anything to add to it and like tips? Emily, do you want to add anything?
Oh, I can.
I think I think when you're in the role, you pick up pretty quickly how to ask people nicely, but firmly, and all the different types of language that it requires to be like, please, I need this by today. But also having to understand that things happen, in science, experiments fail a lot. And so navigating, having to be flexible with some of the deadlines, if it can be flexible, is always key. And I mean, you'll always encounter like a lot of curveballs, but it's just being flexible and being firm, but also understanding at the same time.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I agree. Being flexible and also just communicating your schedule with different teams. So I work with like 3 different teams at a time, and they've all managed to schedule an 8:30 meeting for me all at the same time. So I have to prioritize which meeting I have to be at and tell the other teams that I'm not coming, and then to follow up with them after. So it's a lot of communication with them and a lot of, for like Emily said, firm deadlines that need to be met.
Okay, okay.
And another thing that I've also learned from the officer board, for FOSSA, was just making sure that everyone's opinions are heard. And so I've brought that into my team meetings. If someone hasn't spoken up, not that I'll call them out, but I'll be like, hey, Jacob, what do you think of this design? And just to make sure that everyone's opinions are heard.
That's good. Yeah. I also work with a lot of people day to day. It is, I work like more on the construction side of things, so it is dealing with a lot of, I guess, people with a ton of experience, so they kind of talk down on me. But at the same time, like you have to understand that, you're doing the best at your job, and like you're just going to communicate what you know, and you're going to communicate as clearly as you can. No one can be angry about that. Some people just have bad days. I don't know. Okay. Next question then. What was your experience like as an Asian American student at Virginia Tech? Brian, do you want to start?
Oh yeah, sure. So I think at Virginia Tech, it kind of like opened my eyes to like the Asian community. For me personally, I grew up in Alexandria. Um, there's a there was a really small Asian population from where I grew up. I didn't really know that many Asian people growing up. And like going down to Virginia Tech, it was like a culture shock. It's like, oh my God, there's like entire organizations dedicated to just like Korean people, like just like Chinese culture, Japanese culture. And that was like a really big like wake up call for me. That's like, wow, it's like I didn't realize that was something that I had just kind of put on the back burner. But like being down at Virginia Tech, meeting all these people and kind of sharing these like experiences of like, oh, like my mom used to say this to me, like, oh, like my parents do this, just like stuff like that. I guess like the one thing that I think about a lot is that growing up, my parents always made this joke that I'm actually a twin. They always made a joke that my sister was born and that I was found in a dumpster. But I thought it was so funny that I don't know. After you make some friends, you talk to them, and it's like Chinese people say that a lot. Like this. But yeah, it's just I think like just kind of establishing my roots. I met a lot of people who I still talk to today, and they might not be relevant in terms of like my work life, but like I guess like personal connections and also just like community outreach and helping with all that kind of stuff. It's done a lot for me.
Yeah, to go off of that, I also established a really big group of friends coming out of Virginia Tech. Hans Carlo Rivera is one of them. Don't mean to throw you out, but no, it was amazing because I also came from predominantly all white girls, all girls Catholic high school in DC. And when you're in that mindset, you're just, I don't know, you don't think about your culture and stuff like that. But when I got to Virginia Tech, I really felt at home, and heard in a sense. I bonded with a lot of people that are the oldest child in their families, and they are going through the same things I am, trying to figure out work-life balance, but also caring for their family at the same time. So it was awesome. You feel heard at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Eldest daughter representation. Thank you. Sorry, Emily, go ahead.
No, no, you're fine. I just wanted to add on and say that I definitely agree with what Jessica and Brian said. Definitely feel very heard and seen at Virginia Tech with all the Asian American organizations. I grew up in Chantilly, Virginia, and went to school in Oakton. So there was there were a very small group of Asian people at the time when when I went to school there, and I think because we were in high school, we were at that age where we were trying so hard to fit in with everyone else. It was hard to let our true selves shine. And I really found that at Virginia Tech, where our culture, we can get together with people and celebrate our culture, it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's just so many people at Virginia Tech from so many different backgrounds. You're bound to find someone to click with. And it's even easier to find someone if you're like in an organization with your heritage and connecting more and everything like that.
I guess to follow up on like our discussion of being Asian American, like as an Asian American, did you feel pressured to pursue a certain degree?
I can take that. Yes, I was, but my parents really wanted me to go into engineering and IT, and I gave it a try. I did an internship for a year. Absolutely hated it. So I can at least say I've tried, and it was not for me. But um, I actually then wanted my main goal when I went to tech was actually I was pre-veterinary. And along the way, I actually found my true passion, which was in research. But yeah, I felt pressured into going into technology other than that was because that was what my dad did. That's what they had a sense of being very a stable job with a lot of with good money. So that's where they were trying to push me towards. But in the end, I think navigating through that, it worked out for me in the long run.
I guess
No,
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm really glad that you touched on you having an internship in a career field that you kind of were, I guess, interested in and then decided to change your mind after that. I feel like a lot of people are really scared to do that. Like once they start a certain degree, they're kind of scared to like shift away because they don't want to like hold themselves back and like stay another year. I already started, so why should I shift? But now you're doing something that you're really passionate about and you're doing amazing things with the things that you're doing. Like um so it's just really nice to hear your progression.
It was not easy. With all those things that you said, yes, I did go through like a mild crisis between sophomore and junior year, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And it was junior year when I decided to completely switch from veterinary sciences to focus more on immunology and research. And because of that, I actually did not go straight to grad school. I took a gap year and I worked for 1 year in a lab to get more experience so that would prepare me and give me more time to study for entrance exams and everything to get me into grad school. So it wasn't a straight path for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great to hear.
Anyone next?
Yeah, I guess to refresh on the question, it was what was your wait, did you feel pressured to pursue a certain degree being Asian American?
I think I definitely felt that pressure. Going into tech, I think I started as a business major. I did that for a year, and I think for me, what I realized was that I didn't really feel like this was the right major for me. And just I guess when I was looking around, you kind of notice that like, okay, like my parents are pushing me for engineering. Like a lot of my friends are engineering. My parents were really pushing me to do CS, and that wasn't really something that I was interested in. But like to kind of appease them, like civil engineering was like the middle ground. It's like close enough, you know, something kind of related to business where I started. But yeah, I felt a lot of pressure from like the community. Like just like Emily said, like my parents were really focused on like this is the major that you need to study to get a more prestigious full-time job, one that's stable, that gives you health insurance, kind of like make sure that you're set for life, like you're starting off middle class, like you won't have any worries in the future. And so that was something that kind of definitely affected at least how I ended up choosing to finish my degree in civil engineering.
Wow. So crazy how you started with a business degree, shifted away, and now you're back in business. It was just meant to be.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the anomaly here because in high school they were like, you need to be a doctor, you need a lawyer and all that. And I shut that down real quick. And I told them like, hey, like I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna get a degree, and they were super supportive of that. They knew I was like, I'm not good in math, I'm not good in chem, in the sciences, but I can write and I can just do really well in all other aspects. And so when I got to college at Virginia Tech, they were just like, we just want you to finish in 4 years and see where you go from there. And so I was given the freedom to go after international studies. And I told them like I want to work for the State Department one day. That didn't happen. Had all these lofty dreams of being a foreign affairs officer, and I just fell in love with my hobby of graphic design. So I ended up pursuing that instead, but made a career out of that. So life does change. But I was just very fortunate that my parents understood that my interests were somewhere else.
You guys are so brave. For real though, for like starting, like trying something and then knowing that in there, it's like, okay, yeah, this isn't it. And then moving on from that. Cause I don't know, it's just, I feel like I don't know about you guys, but for me, it was more common for me to see people and myself too, to like start with one thing and then like just kind of like keep going and then you don't know what to do and you just stay with where you're at. So I'd say I think you guys are very brave for that. For real. Because like you guys accomplished so much with where you are right now. And it wouldn't have happened if you didn't um I guess really ask yourself, like, do I even want this? So yeah. I guess to carry on with this discussion, I guess like in the workplace, have you ever been treated differently as an Asian American in the workplace? And like how do you advocate for yourself? Oh,
So
sorry, go ahead.
I guess so I'm gonna start. So for me, when I graduated from tech and civil engineering, I did end up working a full-time job at a corporate company for 2 years. I think one of the reasons that was like my like definitive like this is not the place for me was kind of the team environment. I was placed on my first team and I worked there for a year. And I did face a lot of discrimination for basically everything about me. They would discriminate against me for my age, for my race, just for everything. And so that was like one thing that I couldn't really shake. It's something that I kind of just ignored for the first year, but at some point you kind of have to draw the line and realize that that's not really, it's not, this isn't really worth it for me. So from that point, I actually had requested to be moved to a different team. I tried it out. That team was a lot better. I guess I guess just the experience of having that new team made me realize that maybe this wasn't the workplace for me in general. Because although like the discrimination and all of like the stuff that I didn't really like from the first team was a lot better. It had improved a lot. It was just wasn't, it didn't feel right. And for me, I think the thing that I realized is that I shouldn't have been afraid to tell my managers and everyone that I wasn't comfortable in that situation and that I needed to be moved. I think for me, it was just it felt kind of bad that I waited a year to do it. So I guess it's just really important to advocate for yourself and really express how certain comments or certain small things that people do are actually offensive, even if, you know, it's hard to say.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being so open about this too. I know this could be like a pretty difficult topic to talk about. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to add that I'm glad that you spoke up and noticed that working on that second team was better. Even just slightly, you know, making little changes like that can make your day-to-day so much easier. Like if you're having to come into work and dread working with the people that you're surrounded with or surrounded by 40 hours plus a week, like you're not going to be happy even when you leave work. So making that change is very important, or being able to make that change is very important. Does anyone else want to touch on that topic?
I've also had to do the same thing where one of the proposal managers asked me if, because it was a Department of State project and you had to have citizenship for the proposal. And he turned to me and asked if I had a passport. And I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, is this really happening right now? This is like right after grad. It took me a second to respond, but I was like, yes, of course I do. You can ask my manager if you want. And then I immediately, like Brian did, so asked to switch teams because I wasn't comfortable working with him after that. And I don't care if it was like a big client like Department of State, which like my background obviously has an interest in. I decided not to pursue that project because he had asked me that. So it's definitely about protecting your peace in the workplace, even if you want to pursue that elite project that you've been wanting to pursue. It's it's disheartening, but then you find opportunities later on in the future. Like if it wasn't meant to be at the time.
I can speak a little bit about advocating for yourself in terms of your career as well, because I think that not only do you have to have someone, your manager, most of the time they have your best interests at heart, but a lot of the times they won't know unless you express what you want and be vocal about what your goals are and what you hope to get out of your position. So a lot of it is being open about what do you expect to achieve while you're in your role now, and where do you want to be in the future. And a lot of it is, a lot of the advances I've had personally was asking for it. So I think having that environment and also having people in your corner that could advocate for you is really important. And a lot of the times with racism or people looking down on you because of your age, a lot of the time it's hard to really realize it until like 5 minutes later and you're like, wait, what just happened? And just trying to like navigate through that is also could be a challenge as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, so when you graduate, start working, you're just as important as your manager. You're just as important as the CEO of your company. Like if you're not comfortable, you know, you should voice your opinions, you know, be respectful and everything. You don't have to like yell at the person who is making you uncomfortable, but professionally bring your concerns up and you and your manager can help figure out how to navigate and how to make the workplace a better environment because you are spending most of your day there. Okay, so moving on to the next question. If there is one thing that you would hope the people that hear this recording do as a result of our conversation, what would it be?
Like we talked about before, not being afraid to pivot if something isn't working out or if you just don't feel passionate about it. I personally feel I feel grateful that I pivoted careers in the first place because I get to enjoy something that I do every day, that it doesn't feel like it is a job, but if it's more enjoyable for me to spend 9 to 5 creating graphics than to what I originally would have done. So definitely not be afraid to pivot, but also be ready to work hard um, towards achieving those goals.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Jessica said. And don't be my other advice is don't be afraid to reach out to your network for help and advice. And you never know who in your network could be landing you your next role or your next opportunity. And also have really, if someone is really if someone you look up to is someone you could keep in contact with as a mentor, definitely be have that in your corner as well, because I definitely still keep in contact with my graduate school advisors. We had really good relationships as a mentor mentee, and I go to her for my career advice, for science information and everything. Any questions I have, I still reach out to her. So definitely having a good network is really important.
I also want to add to that. How did you like build your network? Yes, like how did you try and reach out and meet people, and if you have?
A lot of the people, well, is basically the people I still keep in contact with are a lot of the people that I've worked with before or I've collaborated in the past, and they really if and then I say, oh, I'm looking for the X and Y position, and I reach out and some of them, they just introduce me to other people that happen to be looking for to fill a position or anything, and that's how I get connected to more people and expand my network. The other thing is, when I was looking for a job after my postdoc, I kind of just reached out to people on LinkedIn. I searched up at Tech or at my university who gave talks at career panels, and who are in positions that I want to be, and I just reached out to them, and I was like, hey, well, I mean, the worst thing that could happen is you don't get a response. So that's how I went about it. Yeah.
Wait, that's so amazing. That's what we want this career panel to persuade students to do, like reach out. These people are Hokies. They want to help. Everyone wants to help. There's such a
Yeah.
big Hokie community.
No, I mean, I figured if they are willing to speak at a career panel, they'd be willing to give advice. So that was a good starting ground for me to reach out to people. And I'm looking to be, and then asking them more about their jobs and doing informational interviews. It really helped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing I want people to hear from this is is I guess just trust your gut. Don't be afraid to reach out for help when you need to. And also just like don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, because at the end of the day, every job, every position that you're put in, it's only as much as you make it.
Inspiring, actually. That's very inspiring. Mm. Also, I kind of wanted to add, I used to work at a coffee shop when I was in college, and I just bumped into a whole bunch of people who were working in different fields and fields that I was interested in, like um, civil engineering. I was interested in, and I was interested in like architecture and stuff like that. And so I would just like pester these people. I'd be like, "Oh, you said you work in architecture. Like, can you tell me all about it? Because I want to know, like, is it something that I can imagine myself doing? Like, whatever. And um, normally they would ask for my email, or we would exchange emails, and they would just give me a breakdown of everything they do. Like, people are so willing to share their experience because, once in their life, they were in your shoes trying to figure everything out. And so it's kind of refreshing to think about how you ended up in the spot that you're in now. And it's like rewarding to be able to give advice or at least share your experience with someone, knowing that they can take that experience and also learn from it in a way.
Yeah, I agree. I probably have gone through 3 companies at this point since I graduated college, and I've kept connections with each of them since then. They're not graphic designers, they're engineers, they're architects, they're project managers. But I've found sort of the professional network in each of these companies that I've worked with have really good communities to support you even after you leave the company. For example, the previous company that I worked for was WSP, and it was an architecture engineering company. And I gained a mentor there in graphic design, we have monthly check-ins every month to just a touch point on life, how any ideas on what's going on in the graphic design world, stuff like that. So definitely keep in contact with people that you've previously worked with, even if you've left the job.
I guess like transitioning off of that, a couple of you already mentioned like mentor-mentee relationships. I guess like now, like, do you still have a mentor? Like, do you see yourself as a mentor as well?
I still have a mentor that I talk to and ask for advice. Um, and in terms of having mentees, I do I have when I was in my PhD, I mentored a couple of post-baccalaureate students, so aspiring students to get into a PhD program that's also taking a gap year and working on focusing on research. And I still keep in contact with the students that I've mentored over the years. I mean, it's also really rewarding seeing them grow and flourish in their careers as well. But it's always good, and it's not just a one-way street. It's two-way communication. Sometimes I have questions that they also have a better answer to, or they have questions for me to answer. So it's not just a mentor relationship. It's more like it turns into, as we grow in our careers, it turns into kind of a peer-to-peer relationship as well.
Yeah, going off of what Emily said, I don't really have a mentor. I don't see myself as a mentor, but I think as somebody who's trying to do something different, the most valuable resource that I have had so far is my team. It's people that I've worked with, people that have helped me, people I have helped. Just like that team relationship, like without that kind of support system, like I wouldn't even be able to get to where I've been. So, I guess in my opinion, like mentors are they're not always somebody who is above you. For me personally, I think my like mentor would be like the team that has helped support me and help me get where I am.
I like that. Like someone I look up to a lot is my little sister, and obviously she's younger than me.
Yeah, it doesn't mean a mentor is never, I mean, it's not never, but it's not always someone who's necessarily older than you, but someone you could talk to, bounce ideas off of, inspires you. So it comes in all different shapes and forms.
I agree. Um, okay, I have, I guess, like one last question. Um, do you still practice goal setting? How do you set your goals? Do you have like a 5 to 10 year goal, next month kind of goal. Does anyone want to touch on that?
So I'm a very type A person, so I do goal setting a lot. For my specific job, every year we have performance reviews and all that. So I give them like a slide deck of here's of all the things that I want to accomplish in the next year. But in terms of just where I want to be, well, for when you apply for a job in terms of goal setting, I always give them a 30, 60, 90 plan, which is what I will accomplish in the first 30 days on the job, then the next 60 days on the job, and then the next 90 days on the job. Like here's how I'm going to be the employee for you guys. So yeah, just showing that I can establish goals in the first place and knowing what I can do and for the position for the company tells them that I'm going to be a good candidate for them in the candidate process. So in terms, have answered your question, but also like just a good tidbit for people applying to jobs. I think you guys should do that in terms just to show them like you're ready on day one.
That's so impressive.
Well, you just have to do the research on the position that you're applying for. I've done it twice and they're like, what is this? How do you do this? And I tell them like, I know what I'm doing for you guys. You should hire me. So, definitely keep that in mind for any jobs that you guys are trying to apply for. Just be ready to go.
I think I might be on like the opposite side of the sliding scale. I definitely do have goals, but I don't see my goal setting as much of like a linear, like here's my goal, I'm gonna get to it. I guess for me, obviously I'm not in like a corporate industry, so my goals are a little bit more fluid. I kind of lock in on what I'm looking at next, and I kind of set myself up to make sure that I can get there. Like I guess my biggest thing is that things never quite work out the way that you want them to. And so from what I've done, from what I've been working on and what I've seen, flexibility, understanding, and then just ability to adapt to your situation is really important, especially for trying to get to your goals, because those are always, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely echo both Jessica and Brian's points. Being flexible is really important, but also I'm also another very type A type of person, and so I I have personal goals that I set every year, as well as goals in my workplace as well, where we do a yearly goal and also quarterly check-ins to make sure we're on track for what we plan to accomplish in the year. But if we're not, if the target has changed, then we have to be flexible and change our goals accordingly to that. And I was really career oriented. So I know starting off after grad school, when I get into a new position, I'm kind of already thinking what my next position would be and what I have to do in that position that I'm currently in to get where I want to be. So that's kind of how I've been progressing. And I'm finally at a place where okay, maybe I can relax a little bit, but but yeah, that's how I've been setting my goals, just envisioning what I want for the future and the steps I can do where I am currently to get there.
This was actually so helpful because my annual reviews are coming up. So you're giving me good material to use.
Yeah.
Actually,
Oh, sorry,
oh,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
You should just also, even if you don't, like Emily said, those quarterly check-ins and they don't schedule them with your supervisor or whoever you need to meet with, schedule them yourself throughout the year so that you can keep yourself on track and that by the time you do go through goal setting, performance reviews and all that, you have all of your, you've done all your check-ins. Another thing with that is if you want to meet your goals, you also want to have your receipts ready. Save all your emails where you've gotten really good feedback from people or high praises to make sure that people know that you are at the top of your game.
I forgot what I was gonna say earlier.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. If it comes up, I'll bring it up again. So leading into, or I guess following up on that question, I feel like you guys would have a lot of good like interview tips. Do you have interview tips that you would like to share for someone just looking for a job out of college? Like where to start, maybe? I got my job from like one of those career festivals, or what is it? I don't know.
Yeah, career fairs.
Fair, oh, fair,
mhm,
not a
yeah.
festival.
No,
Not
you're
a
good.
festival.
Yeah, but I
Feels
guess
like a
also,
festival.
yeah, we can make it a festival. But I guess the question, I think, how you could pivot it for Brian is, have you interviewed people, and then what are some
Yeah,
good things that they've done? Yeah, so it's like the other way around.
I will say I did love interviewing for companies. I'm like one of those weird people. I thought that was so much fun. Like
God.
going out of college, I would go to the career fairs and the interviews were like the best part. One pro tip, this is a secret tip that I tell everyone who ever asks me about interviews, is that if you're ever in an interview and someone asks you a question, and you kind of need to think about it, what I always do is I always ask them to talk about themselves while I think about the answer to their question. One thing that I noticed is that people love talking about themselves. So if somebody asks you a question and you're just like, I don't really know how to answer it, sometimes what I do is I would ask them the question and have them answer it first while I load up my response.
That's smart. You got to distract them.
It also starts from like when you first enter the interview and you have to do small talk at the beginning when you're like, hey, how are you doing? You don't just say, I'm good. You tell them like, I'm great. I just played in a flag football tournament on the national level or whatever. And then they're just like, oh, wow, what is that about? So you're kind of you're exchanging personalities from the get-go, and sort of being open to talking to them more.
Yeah. I want to add to that actually. Virginia Tech's a really good school. That's why these people are going to Virginia Tech and trying to like hire you. So I think one way to really make yourself stand out is to talk about your hobbies and to talk about like what makes you different.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important and be engaging at all times. Even and be personable. And I think when you answer questions, it's really helpful to kind of relate it and give an example about what you did personally to say if they like ask you to they ask you how you combat conflict or something. And a good thing is if you answer it, but give an example of what you did rather than just saying how you would do it. If you like put yourself in a scenario, that I think painting a picture for them also helps better. And also just be personable and see that because you got the interview for a reason. They're already impressed with you on paper, so it's just that extra thing to make you stand out when you meet them.
Also, if you're in my field where you're sort of having to show your work, have your portfolio ready to share and show on the side. I also snuck in my 30, 60, 90 plan on that in that portfolio to show them that I'm ready to do the job. But just to be ready for that as well.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the interviews. I think for me at least, I think interviews are where you show your personality. Like that's like what I see as like the purpose of the interview is to see how this person would be to work with as a team member, how well would they get along with the people that I work with, like that kind of deal.
Yeah, a lot of the time the interviews are kind of more like a vibe check to make sure if you
Hmm.
vibe with the group or not. So
Yeah, I will say, like, as you're encroaching your senior year, and looking for like a full-time job, I will say there is a shift in energy when it comes to interviews. Or even from like your first job to your second job, if anyone out there is already working. But it's like you start to notice that they're not just interviewing like someone to train, they're also interviewing someone they're gonna work with every day. So personality matters a lot. I noticed that shift when I was just like 18 interviewing for internships versus like um being 22 and I'm gonna be their possible colleague. So I agree, like personality does make up like a huge percentage of like your first impression in like your interview. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's like a definite shift in, well, your behavior, but also when I was first about to graduate and trying to get a job, there's the pressure of that as well, making you nervous in interviews because you're like, I really need to land this job after college. You'll land wherever you need to land. Just don't focus on that. Focus on sort of seeing if this company is also the right fit for you, because that's also the other way around, where you're also seeing if this person interviewing you are you going to get along with them as well?
5, check them back.
I agree. I
Exactly.
remember interviewing for a place when I graduated college, and I wasn't a fan of the panel interview. Like I wasn't a fan of the people that I would probably be working with, and so I decided to deny the offer. And I think that's really important to figure out too. Like, who do you want to work with? Like, where do you want to work? What is most important to you in your workplace? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think going off of that, it's a very, very good place for you to also check how your manager is like and how their managing style is like. That's really important because sometimes you might not get the opportunity to, but having a really good manager can make or break or your job. A manager and your team members. So having that making sure you're in an environment where you can flourish in terms of managing style is also really important.
Yeah, I've followed my manager from my first job to my current job. Like we went separate paths and we ended up working together now. And that's super important. And you can sort of tell how your manager is going to react just by the questions that you ask them at the end of the interview. Um, have those have those questions ready to go when they ask you, like, do you have anything else to say? Or can we answer anything else for you? And you'll figure out how your manager's personality will be just by those questions that you ask them.
Yeah, I think after being in the workforce for a while, people work for the people, not for the job. So they follow the people. So if you find a really good group and a really good team, that's when people tend to stick around.
Yeah. So we do have, does anyone want to add anything else? Anything random or like maybe something to add on to a question that we previously had? Maybe. No. Okay. Well, we do have the floor open for questions as well. If anyone in the Zoom would like to ask a question, either in chat or with mic off.
Can I highlight the panelists? Can I like ask them? Okay. I'm gonna do it anyways. Okay, so
Okay.
I guess for each one of you, I think I know you guys personally, and I feel like you guys are obviously amazing people, but you guys are not highlighting like the cool things that you guys do that I think obviously everyone in this panel should be able to listen to. Like for example, Emily, it would be cool if you could talk about how did you were on. I don't know if everyone knows this, but Emily was on the COVID-19 vaccine team, and like you were underplaying this girl. And so I was just gonna say, like, how was that? Like, especially during COVID, during 2020, the fact that I mean, you found the vaccine, you had to work with Moderna, and you know, Pfizer. And I mean, I go to you every time that there's a booster. I'm like, Emily, should I get the booster? Or like she's literally the person I go to for things like that. And then with Jessie as well, the fact that you won the t-shirt contest for the DC like 5K, 10K, like the big marathons pretty much. What was the process like competing for that? And like, how did you even hear about the t-shirt competition or the contest in general? And then Brian, how did you even end up at Tito, or like, how did Tito become? Because I know when we first graduated, you were working at Tito just like part-time. And then how did you go from a part-time like employee to a full-time owner of a franchise?
Thank you, Melanie, for asking that, because I was so curious if they were going to touch on any of those things.
Yeah, I know. I was like, these are the cool things. And I know, because they are I mean, they are like some of the most humble people I know. And I just want to highlight them and how amazing they really are. So
This is how she pitched you guys to us, by the way. She was so
I also
proud.
stalked you guys on LinkedIn.
I know
You
I
guys-
was really like, I have cool friends, and let me show them off, like pretty much.
Thanks, Melanie. I guess I can start. I was doing my PhD when COVID hit, and so I work at when I did my PhD, I did it under the direction of Dr. Barney Graham at the Vaccine Research Center at the National Institutes of Health. And one of the sections in his lab was a coronavirus-based section. So we were already working on coronaviruses before COVID-19 even became a thing. And not me, but the people before me have figured out a way to stabilize the basically that one thing that your body makes an immune response to. And they found it for SARS-CoV-1. And so when SARS-CoV-2 rolled around, it was pretty much a plug and play. We already knew how to make a vaccine really quickly. And so the coronavirus team in our lab really like spearheaded that direction, and they collaborated with Moderna to have their vaccine in combination with Moderna's mRNA technology to make a vaccine that could be hopefully, well, now we know that it works in people. But my role there was basically, so I'm not the best person to talk about work-life balance, but during my graduate school, my project got stopped. It was a all hands on deck effort to make this vaccine into a reality. And basically, some of my coworkers, my peers, we're all like 20 years old, by the way. So it's really crazy to think that a bunch of like early to late 20-year-olds are producing all this data that eventually became a vaccine. But basically, my friends would do the experiments in the morning to late night, and the data that was generated from the experiments that they did came to me and one other person, and we would work from basically 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. to analyze all the data, make all the figures, and send it to the lead of the coronavirus program by like 4 or 5 a.m. so she could present it to the team at 6, 7, 8 a.m. And so that cycle continued throughout 2020 and 2021. So it was nonstop 24 hours of work, and weekends were not a thing. Work-life balance was not a thing. We were like at home, so it was also honestly really hard to separate that. But also we understood that there was a really global need to have a vaccine generated. So all of the mouse, we had to like start from the mice, and we went through all the animal models before we got into humans, and all of that data analysis. I was a part of that cycle of generating data and analyzing data, and then getting it ready for the the head of the program to present the data to government officials, to stakeholders, to everything. So yeah, that was a big chunk of my of the pandemic for me, was working nonstop. But I mean, I think at the end it was worth it for the global health impact. All that work, it paid off. So yeah.
Definitely worth it. I don't know how I'm gonna follow that up, but that's amazing. Oh my goodness. Thank you for not, I'm sorry for working all those hours, but honestly, the impact is, I mean, obviously crazy to see. I'm sure that's crazy to see for all of that.
Yeah.
Um,
It was, I don't think it was, we wrapped our heads around it because at that time we were just like, okay, we need to get this done. And so we just hunkered down and did it. But it was crazy that the main core group of people producing the data were like 20 something year olds, like babies in the lab. But yeah.
that's even more amazing to know that it was 20 something year olds. And there's like hope in our generation at least. But I don't even know how I'm gonna follow that up. Did not find, did not come up with the vaccine for COVID, but uh I ran for the cherry blossom, the 2024 credit union cherry blossom race. I ran it in 2019. And all of my friends next to me, they're like, just why don't you enter the contest? I think you could do really well with that. And so I didn't actually uh enter the contest until last year, 2023. And I actually lost the contest and then re-entered again this year with a different design and different mindset and a different vision for it. I don't know if you guys know Stumpy, which is like the little tiny little tidal basin tree
I
that
do.
looks really ugly compared to the rest of them. But I used him as sort of a sign of resilience for runners because you don't have to be the fastest runner. You don't have to, you just have to finish. And so I entered that contest with like the blurb of what I just talked about. And the race director just fell in love with that idea and really just went with it. And so that's how I ended up winning that contest for this year. But really, the lesson of that is just to really put yourself forward and really trust in your talents. I didn't believe that I could win a contest like that. And um, I even lost the first time around. So just to keep trying was pretty amazing. And all of my friends, they ran they ran the race, both races for me. So I even had my boyfriend say to me, he's like, I'm gonna run both races for you so I can get both t-shirts and both medals so that I can have your design. So it's pretty amazing. But yeah, that was a cool experience.
That's
Go
awesome. And Jesse,
Jesse.
you oh yeah, I know this. I was like, hey Jesse. And Jesse, you did this like out of your own like hobby, right? Like Guidehouse didn't sponsor it or anything. Or...
Yeah, no one sponsored me to do this. I just was just like, whatever, let me try this. Let me try let me try putting my talent somewhere. I know I've been like creating logos and stuff for other football teams and other organizations, but I figured like this is like a big step, I guess, for me to attempt. And the race committee really welcomed me in their arms, and I might actually be serving on the board for the credit union cherry blossom race after this to help with their t-shirt contest and other things that involve the race. So it was a really good eye-opening opportunity for me, and they really took care of me that weekend. So I am honored to be one of the contest winners.
Oh, that's so cool. I think it's a great I'm sure it's a great feeling to see your designs on all of the t-shirts and the medals too.
Yeah, it was super emotional, honestly, to see
Oh,
them for the first time. It's like I don't want to like it's back there, but just to see 20,000 people rock your design, I was just like, oh, this is really emotional. Oh my gosh. But yeah, unexplainable experience.
I'll have to search it up afterwards. I think
It's
I've
so
seen it,
cute.
but yeah, I need to
Yeah,
see it.
yeah, it's so cute. Because
Hell
I
yeah.
recognized it as soon as I said Stumpy, I was like, oh, I know what she was going for.
Yeah, I didn't win anything. I didn't like cure COVID or anything, but I guess
You are impactful in the Fairfax, Tito, not
Sir,
even Boba area. I hope you know that. Very
you're a business
impactful.
owner. You
Yeah.
create a safe space for Mason kids. Like I don't
Yeah, I think I actually graduated the year that we went into lockdown. So for me, I think most people who know me know that I'm a workaholic. Actually, going into lockdown, I was actually just about to calm down. My fall semester of 2020, I was actually doing 2 jobs and also taking 24 credit hours. So I was working 40 hours a week, taking 24 credit hours, and I guess like when the lockdown happened, like everything it just stopped. All of our classes went online, obviously. I got laid off of both of my jobs. And I think for me, just like that downtime kind of like really set in that I'm a workaholic because I guess once I graduated and I realized like okay, like this is what I have right now. I have a job offer, like that's great. But from like a financial perspective, I felt kind of tied down. So I did work my full-time job. I was doing that like 50, 60 hours a week. And then my part-time at Tito, I was doing that 25, 30 hours a week. So I was hitting like 90, 100 hours a week. But I think what really made it for me was that my full-time job really wasn't making me feel fulfilled, if that makes sense. It was something that I had learned in school, something that I was interested in. But I guess once I got there, I realized like the work environment, like the working hours, like everything, it just wasn't quite what I was expecting, and just didn't work out how I felt like it was going to work. It didn't fit together how I felt it like it was going to. Um, my first year, I actually I think at the end of the first year, I realized that I was getting more happiness and more joy from working at a boba shop than I was working this full-time job that I went to school for 4 years to get. And so that was kind of like my turning point. I decided to give the full-time job one more try. I switched teams, I tried it again, and it just didn't feel right for me. And so I guess that was the point where I decided it was time to choose the job that was giving me fulfillment and happiness over like that. I guess like the thought of like stability that my parents have ingrained into me. I guess when like just explaining that whole process to my parents was really difficult. For them, they were like, well, you've already invested all this time, all this money, going to college. You already have a really stable full-time job. Like, why would you throw all that away? But for me, what I realized is that money didn't matter to me, and then I was gonna choose happiness over the money, um, and over the stability over all of that. And so that's how I ended up doing that. I guess right around that time, I was talking to the franchise owner, and they were looking at opening a second location, um, and they didn't really have anyone to take that location yet. And so somebody had dropped my name. I picked it up, and I had the opportunity to do it from start to finish. Like we went in there, I chose the space. Me and my partner, we designed it together. We picked every single finish, every single tile. We were there every day. I basically just took my full-time job and did my full-time job for fun, building out the store ourselves too. But yeah, I guess it's just a boba shop, but it's the job that I like a lot more.
It's not just a boba shop. You're literally the owner of Tito Fairfax, a franchise owner. And I can't tell you how many Mason kids I know that go there like weekly, 4 times a week, like literally. So
Our
yeah,
staff is like almost all VSA, so
I'm not surprised. Yeah, see, there you go.
I mean, every time I
Actually,
go there, it's like packed.
No,
So
literally,
you're
yes.
doing something right.
I actually live right across from it, so I like to go on my walks when it's nice outside, like just to the Tito, to like cancel out like the calories I'll have from drinking it. So it's important to me. But yeah, is there any other questions from the audience that we'd like to touch on or no? Yeah, I don't know. I guess not. Oh, yes, Nina.
Come on, Asha. Come over. Say hi.
Hi, I've been listening, sorry. Or you can see me. I was just curious if the work that you guys are doing, you would have considered your dream job, or if you do, or if that's something you're still looking for.
I personally think I'm at my dream job. Well, no, I'm on my way to my dream job. I get to do what I love every day. Dream job is to design jerseys for an NBA team or or the personal branding for a big sports team. I don't know how I'll get there and when I'll get there, but for now I'm filling out my portfolio to do that.
Yeah, I think right now is where I am is pretty much my dream and where I wanted to be at this time. I can't speak for the future, but being in science, working on vaccines, impacting public health is something I am really passionate about. So
I don't know if I ever dreamed to have this job, but I do enjoy it. So I guess you could say that.
I have a question for those of you, if you haven't come back down to Blacksburg, what would you do now? Or what would you have liked to have done also when you were at VT that you would encourage the students here now to do?
I appreciate that there's an Asian American Cultural Center sort of in Squires because that really wasn't there when I when I was in FASA and trying to get the organization off the ground. And I appreciate the support that you guys are giving the Asian American organizations now currently. I also wish that I would have gotten FASA more involved in other parts of the community outside of AASU. We tried to do that, but there was just so much on our plate, so many social events that we tried to accomplish. I would have wished that I say we because I put my president mindset back into play, but just getting the organization into sort of business and other outlets outside of WSU.
I would just like to say I was in FASA the year you were president, and you were a bomb ass president. Let's say that right now.
Thanks.
Hey, Carlo was also on board. I remember.
Me and Carla tried to do so many things when we were over there, but we obviously didn't have enough time. But just appreciate the Asian Cultural Center that you guys have now and having a representative in the first place. Nina, like you, it wasn't there before. So that's awesome. And for you guys to have Hans Carlo on campus now as a resource.
Any other
And just to-
questions?
Just to clarify, it's now the APIDA Plus Center. But I know people like to still call it the A Center. The alums still do.
I apologize to APIDA.
It's fine, you're fine. It's the rebrand. We're still getting used to it. You can help us rebrand.
Okay, I guess that can conclude our career panel. I just wanted to share my screen real quick, just to summarize our panelists, and I have a couple pictures that I wanted to show. Okay. You guys see this? So these are our panelists, Emily, Jessica, and Brian. If anyone wants to reach out, you can email Nina, me, Elaine, and maybe we can exchange emails between the two of you. They also all have LinkedIn. I stalked them. You guys can stalk them too. But yeah. I also wanted to add these photos. So Melanie just sent this to, oh wait, Brian sent this photo and it was kind of too small in that first slide, so I wanted to blow it up a little. Here's Tito.
Yeah.
And also Melanie just sent these photos. Sorry, Jessica, for putting you on the spot like this, but everyone I'm
So
sure was
good.
curious what the design looked
Wow.
like.
Looks so pretty.
I know I was looking it up.
Thank you. I mean, obviously was not prepared. That's what it looked like when I literally just said have your portfolio on the side ready to go. But yeah, that's the medal from this concert. I took a picture of the tree and what it looked like, and I drew the back of it. So the monument and all of that behind. Yep.
Amazing.
That's
I almost ran
awesome.
that.
It looks
That's
great.
crazy.
That's so cool.
Oh, and it's like Stumpy is like on the circle, the half circle. Dang. She's so good. Yes, Jessie. Love it.
Yeah, they're kind of worried about me at the Run Expo because they didn't know if I was gonna be extroverted enough to just say hi to people, and I was like, "Don't worry, you can leave me. I'll make friends. We'll be okay."
Yeah, these are our panelists. Any closing remarks from APIDAHM?
Oh, we did have a special blurb. Um, we'll be back at Virginia Tech on Thursday, May 9th at 5 to 7 p.m. for the achievement ceremony. The ceremony will be at Squires Commonwealth Ballroom A, and then a reception to follow will be at Ballroom B. Nina or Jackie, like, did you guys want to add on to that?
I think unfortunately Kristen Houston isn't here, but there's also an alumni reunion weekend on June 8th. So I think they're doing a whole like coffee something with all the CCCs, so all the cultural and community centers. So if you end up wanting to come back, that's also a good time to see the spaces and stuff like that. Particularly for those who left and haven't had the chance to come back yet. Thank you.
Alumni weekend, I think they have different, 8th and 9th are the big ones, but if you go earlier in the week, I think they have events that are going on for alums. So if you just Google BT Alumni Weekend 2024, there's a whole itinerary for like the next 5 days or so. But yes, if you are in town then, there will be like a CCC's morning breakfast coffee situation where you can learn more about the different centers. So if y'all are there, please go to that. We're happy to give you more information so you can get in touch with us. And we will be at the achievement ceremony in the next couple of weeks to celebrate the achievements of our community.
Yay.
Yeah, we're excited to see everyone graduating there. Also, make sure to follow us on Facebook at Asian Pacific Islander Desi Alumni Society. That's the full name. And then at APIDAHS_VT on Instagram for future updates and events. We also have LinkedIn, and I'll put the links to these pages in the chat right now, actually. Did anyone else want to add anything? Thank you to our panelists. Like I said, it's the end of the workday. I know this was a lot, and it's deeply appreciated.
Well, thanks for having us and inviting us to speak about our experiences.
Yeah, thank you, and congrats to everyone graduating and entering the workforce soon.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you guys for being humble kings and queens, but thank you for also highlighting how great you guys all are. So I'm glad you guys were the panelists. I hope you guys know that.
Okay, it sounds like we can end this recording.